Hey family, I guess this is part two. Oh man, I was listening to this piece by Dr. Tommy Curry, and he was mentioning how W.E.B. Du Bois wrote children's books, and I didn't even know that. He wrote it with a co-author, wrote them with a co-author. This is something that is not spread or even well known. I mean, I suppose if you're an academic, you probably knew it. But anyway, he made a mention that this creativeness, this understanding is not cherished and honored among black men. And this got my mind going a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember Tookie Williams. Tookie Williams, who was a founder of the Crips originally. He was killed the death penalty. He was given the death penalty and he was killed in 2005. There was a major move within not only the black community, many black leaders, including, to his credit, Jesse Jackson and many others, had petitioned to have his life spared. Because Tookie Williams had renounced gangsterism and had become a major proponent of programs to keep black youth out of gangs. Now, most people don't realize this, but the Crips actually started out as a revolutionary group. They were actually a group patterned after the Black Panthers. And when they tried to move politically in the state, I think, if I remember correctly, the state of California, the government, not the federal government, the local and state government said, we're not going to deal with you unless you get rid of the revolutionary out of your name. Because CRIP used to actually stand for something. That actually used to stand for something. And the R was revolutionary. And they were like, we're not dealing with you if you are a revolutionary group. So they dropped it. And then things started happening. I'm under the belief that the CIA and DIA and FBI and stuff really infiltrated the group and turned it in the way that it ended up going into, because they were fearful of black power. And considering, again, the FBI stated goal, they put it in a memo. You can get the memo online. They said, we want to take 1 to 2 generations of black men, black women out of the black liberation, black revolutionary struggle. Considering that they said that and then they didn't go on into detail, I guarantee they had details. They had a plan. That said, Tookie Williams, if I remember correctly, wrote children's books. And he wrote the books in hopes of steering young children away from gang life. Not only gang life, but building themselves up. This, I never could understand. Because I was not as awake, nearly as awake as I am now, when I heard about Tookie Williams. And I could never, and at the time, I couldn't understand. This man was actively working against black people, working against gangs attracting black people. So he was working against black folks going into gangs. He was trying to encourage them to not go into gangs and starting the philosophical underpinnings to ensure that more and more black men and women wouldn't go into gangs. He was also one of the people, if I remember correctly, who talked about what needed to happen in the community to ensure that gangs did not flourish. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a pessimist when it comes to this. I'm an optimist altogether, but a pessimist when it comes to the idea of gangs flourishing in the black community. It has always been my belief that gangs have been allowed to flourish because the government wants them to flourish. I don't care if you're talking local, regional, state, or federal. All four levels want them to flourish. They like them there. They like the damage they cause, and they're basically pawns in this major game that they got going on. That said, I could not understand why they would kill a man who was already in prison. He hadn't had a body on him since he was not in prison. Supposedly, there were some questions even of the death that he was actually sentenced for. But that said, he was working supposedly to achieve what the federal government, state government wanted, which was to get black children, black men out of gangs, to stop the gang violence. He was working against that. And him being a founding member of a major gang, he had to understand the psychology and the sociology that went into creating the atmosphere where that gang could not only gestate, but expand rapidly. That is a powerful mind. You already got him in prison. He isn't escaping. He hasn't tried to escape. In fact, he, by all accounts, was a positive influence on the other jail personnel. Even though, if I remember correctly, even some of the jailers said, "We don't understand why you're killing this guy. He's not a problem. He holds the peace. He even keeps rival gangs from going at each other." But he was a positive influence for the other inmates. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. So I couldn't understand, why would you kill him? Why would the white man kill this man when he's supposedly doing everything that you say your system is built to do? He has been rehabilitated. He's doing positive works, and he's trying to stop the organizations which your supposed crime organizations, have not been able to even put a dent into. Tommy Curry explained it for me. He explained it for me. If the goal of the society is not to protect black life, but to destroy black life, particularly black male life, then any person that is trying to bring peace to black males, any person that is trying to bring peace to the black community, trying to prevent us from killing one another, is a threat. Is a threat. And this, ironically, and by the way, any person that's trying to stop the menticide, which, by the way, menticide is a real army term. You have to look it up. Menticide. There's a book actually called Menticide, and I'm not talking about the one written by Mwalimu Baruti or Bobby Wright. I think Bobby Wright. Yeah. There's actually a book called Menticide. I can't think of it right now, and I can't see it on my bookshelf either. So, but you have to look it up. This actually brings me to Eric Garner, because Eric Garner, the narrative that you've been hearing about Eric Garner, and I've mentioned this, and I'm mentioning it again because I want it to be pounded into your damn heads. Not literally like your damn heads, not in a negative way. But I mean damn as in D-A-M heads. Because too many of us literally seem to have like fog damning our heads. So we don't actually absorb stuff. Originally when we hear it, it takes a few times. I get that. I actually get that. That's why the media repeats things a lot, because sooner or later you hear it enough times, you believe it. So they repeat that O.J. Simpson is guilty, you believe it. I don't, because I still remember some of the inconsistencies of the trial. You do. You do. You do. I don't. That said, Eric Garner was murdered. We all know that. But do you remember, Eric Garner wasn't selling loose cigarettes. Remember what I was just saying. Any black person, if the goal of the society is to destroy black men, then any black person bringing peace and stability to the community is a threat. Remember, I just said that. Gots to be eliminated. Because the goal is to destroy the black man. Eric Garner wasn't selling Lucy cigarettes. Oh no, don't take my word for it, family. No. You're on YouTube right now, obviously, because you're watching me. Pause the video, open up another tab, go to YouTube, and type in Eric Garner, I Can't Breathe, entire video. And watch the entire video. Actually, in fact, you don't even have to watch the entire video. As soon as they go to put him in the chokehold, you've watched enough. But you have to watch the beginning portion of it and listen. Eric Garner says in the video, because they accused him of selling the Lucy cigarettes, he says, "Why are you always harassing me? I don't have anything on me. You didn't see me sell no cigarette. I don't have any cigarettes on me, and yet here you go." He said that he did not sell any loose cigarettes, and he had nothing on him. I'm taking his word for it. Because then he goes on to tell them, and I might have it backwards, but then he goes on to tell them, and this was originally part of the narrative, but they've clipped that out. They've clipped this part out. There was a fight about to happen, and Eric Garner came up, and he separated the people who were there and got them to leave. No fight occurred. He brought peace. And for his trouble, he was murdered. You have to understand, family. The media created a narrative behind Eric Garner, which is completely false. The man was not selling Lucy cigarettes. He was there actually promoting peace, and they killed him for it. The reason this is important is because that's not the only time they did it. The Michael Brown clip that we all seen him pushing the store owner before going out and getting shot by Darren Wilson. It turns out that there was, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was another video that, okay, back up. I had heard, and it was unconfirmed, but I had heard that he had previously paid for, and I think it was Dorian Johnson who said this, that Michael Brown had paid one of the co-workers for the cigars. And then he had come in to get the cigars, the Black and Miles, really. He had come in to get them, and with the owner did not know that he had already paid for them. And so he tried to stop him, and he pushed him away like, "Yo, man, seriously, I've already paid for him, blah, 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 blah." They released a video, I think it was last year. They did it quietly, too. They released a video last year that showed that original concept was indeed true. They had it on video. They just didn't release it because they wanted the narrative out there or they wanted to put the narrative on into the media, not out there, just into the media, that he was a criminal and he was a thug and he deserved to die. They did the same thing with Eric Garner. The Lucy aspect, that he was actually committing a crime, gave a lot of people the evidence they needed that there was nothing wrong with killing him. The same thing with Tamir Rice. The same thing with John Crawford III. Is all of them had something that was criminally possibly criminally wrong with them. So they were killed because of this mistaken identity, this criminalization of black men. But they were all lies. Tamir Rice didn't have a real gun. James Crawford didn't have a real gun. Honest to God. So what Tommy Curry is talking about, we need to really take under deep consideration. Because if their goal is to destroy us, they're doing a very, very good job of it. They're doing a very good job of it because, well, they have determined themselves to do that good job. I apologize, family. They have determined themselves to do a good job. And they are, as is often said, they are staying on code. Anyway, though, thanks, guys. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. I'll see ya. Peace.